Let's check your second stimulus package, and more especially your unemployment. This is the evening show every night on Lalate, the live telecast that covers your unemployment, answers all your questions on air about unemployment. The only show on the net that answers questions about unemployment live every night at approximately shortly after 4:15 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Every night there's viewers tuning in from around the world. So is anyone tuning in internationally? We're simulcast right now on Instagram. You can follow us and tune in stereo if you want on Instagram. That's L8 underscore. I already know that someone is tuning in from Catania, for Cecilia. But let's see if there's anyone else international tuning in tonight. This is a big night in which you have already seen Afternoons LA deliver Check and then Purple. Check had big updates about stimulus checks coming out across the country from your states. And then Purple had big updates, more about that, and the state stimulus for rent, utilities, and more that's coming on across the country. What's incredibly international, someone in IG just says, does Miami count as international? Well, it does have an international airport. does, does Washington, D.C. count as international? It depends on how Nancy sets her hair that day. Oh, it's one of those nights. From North Korea, Drew Johnson is me. Drew Johnson's joining us from North Korea. Anyone else tuning in internationally that I've missed so far? We have Qatar and we have North Korea tuning in for tonight's telecast. Yesterday, when I went live, we had no less than about 20 different countries represented across the channel in a given day. So it's a big day. In this video, I'm going to be going over your UI, your PUA, your FPUC. And what's incredible great news is that these things are getting taken care of. What's important to understand is that the relief is finally coming. One of the three things I want to address before I get into this recording are the following. First, I certainly do know that the problem creators the problem creators are set to create more problems tomorrow. And apparently they're telling us about their creations of problems they're creating tonight to prepare for tomorrow's creations of more problems. So I'm certainly aware of them. What's important for you to understand is that the problem creators are expected to create lots of problems across the board tomorrow for your second stimulus. And what I've seen so far is more creations of problems, not creations of solutions. And what's important for you to understand and remain focused is that you're going to hear a lot of people saying things like, I want to do this. And then ultimately, what I want you to understand is that it may not formulate into anything. For the person who just said $2,000, you're dreaming. I'm not dreaming. Your president's dreaming. The president of the United States has indicated to Josh Hawley that he'll do $1,200 to $2,000 for a stimulus check. Josh Hawley's bill is $1,200, but said that the president would go to $2,000. Ultimately, all we're doing is reporting what your president is saying. And there we go. Problem creators have actually started creating new problems for tomorrow. And I'm not really going to cover it, but what's important for you to understand is that you could always, at a second heart's notice, hear something like, Steve Mnuchin suddenly announced today you're going to get a $120 stimulus check, and Nancy Pelosi has said she's going to give you a $55 stimulus check. Ultimately, I expect I'm going to get 900 DMs as soon as someone says something insane like that, but I don't want you to worry about those things. I just really don't want you to worry about that. The other thing I want you to understand is I'm starting to see comments to the check and the afternoon's LLA video, the check and the purple video right before this. And I think some of the comments are like, okay, so how about my state? Well, how about my other state? Understand, I'm sort of like the shoe store. Well, no, that's not, that's a bad example. I'm sort of like Home Depot. When you come to me, all the lumber's in the front, so there's no lumber in the back room. So when I'm telling you on air, these are the states that are sending out stimulus check, there's no other states that I'm holding that are in the back room that I just haven't mentioned. I'm telling you everything I know. So if there is another state that's announced, I'm going to announce it on air. But there's always someone that say, how about this state? Well, the reason why I didn't mention the state because they haven't announced anything yet. So if they do, I'll tell you if they announce something. Then people are saying, How do I get this for that? How do I get this from that? Or then people said, when is the check arriving in this particular state? Ultimately, I cannot report on 50 states and when the check is being mailed in every respective state. I can do only so much. And so certainly all this information is available online. And your local news and local broadcast news, your local TV covers, when a check is in the mail. But I won't know for, $4,000 in rent in Minnesota. Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. Someone just said I got $4,000 in rent in Minnesota. So I really appreciate that. Good evening from Tampico, Mexico. ¿Cómo estás, Deborah Cruz Lopez? ¿Qué onda? So there we have international tuning in. So what I want to go over is your UI, PUA, and FPUC a little bit, and then we'll do some Q&A. Actually, let's start with Q&A. Does anyone have any questions about unemployment to start? That might even guide the conversation tonight. Any questions about unemployment, UI, PUA, FPUC, escalated benefits, enhanced unemployment benefits? Any questions about it? Estoy esperando más stimulus, guapo. Gracias. Gracias. Quiero más stimulus también. Arriba, arriba. You're doing awesome. I appreciate that. Necesario más stimulus. Any questions? Oh, the screen just went blank. There we go. What's going on with unemployment? So I can start with that. So what's going on with unemployment? Why have you been answering my questions? I'm 6 minutes into the video. Tracy why haven't you been answering my questions? Oh, I don't know, Tracy. There's 500 people in the room, and there's 37 here, and I've only 6 minutes into the video. I haven't answered anyone's question. So I'm personally not answering your question, Tracy. Just take a note. I'm making a note. I'm specifically making a note that I'm not taking anyone's questions. I broke the screen. Thank you for so much. You could speak in Spanish. I can't speak in Spanish. So what's going on with unemployment? So the PUA and the UI would be extended in both the proposals, but ultimately I want Josh Hawley and Bernie Sanders to get it into their bill. Their bill needs to be modified. Do I have the bill from me? I do. Show and tell. So here's Josh Hawley's bill. It needs to be modified to include eviction moratorium, mortgage forbearance, PUA, and UI extension for 1 month. So any other questions? How can I get volunteers help? Go to news.lalate.com/community. All the videos that I'm publishing now that are taped, or that are generally even live, you're going to see in the corner, if you're on a computer, a link that pops out, and then it has links to things, and you'll see the community page there. Or if you're on a cell phone, you're watching on a cell phone, open the first pin comment. It'll be in the first pin comment. Any questions else about UI or PUA if I continue? How long does an appeal for UI take? Oh boy, that's a great question. They're not quick. And they could take weeks, if not months. I'm not going to mince that word. They are very slow. Are we going to get the $300 FPUC retro? I don't think you are. I don't think you should. I think it's a hot mess express unto itself. You're owed 21 weeks, no, 30-something weeks of FPUC, and they're trying to give you $900 forward, 3 weeks of FPUC. Instead of 30 weeks retro at $600 a week, which is $18,000. So they're trying to give you $900 instead of $18,000. That's just a little bit of it doesn't really balance out. So I don't think you're going to get it. I don't think anyone should be fighting for it. I think it's insane. And $1,200 stimulus check is more than $900. So, even Larry Kudlow's calculator says that. Thank you for the nice comments. Someone just said. Any other questions about UI? Last UI check tomorrow. What happens next? Great question from Tori B. So her last week to certify for benefits, I assume, or her last check or her last week to certify for benefits is tomorrow. So what you're going to do is you're going to certify for that week, and then you're going to look and just. If your next time that you would normally certify is a week from this coming Monday, then you're going to look at it a week from this Monday if Congress gets this done this week. I presume that the states are going to be relatively on the ball to get their websites to add the week as soon as Congress kicks this into a law. But you just really have to watch that your state's unemployment website. Indiana said I don't qualify for extended benefits because I didn't work the last quarter of 2019. I made over 25,000. Should I qualify right? I don't understand the question. If you ask it again, maybe I'll answer. I don't understand the question. If you made over $25,000, you would qualify for escalated benefits, but I don't know how much your 2009. If your total 2019 earnings was 25, you should certainly qualify for escalated benefits. Um, is there? Oh, now there's. Wow. Is the Oregon? Any other questions? Hello from Milwaukee. Any other questions about unemployment? I heard something in the adjudication that it's disappeared. What do I do? So if there's something unclear in your state's unemployment website, certainly call them up on the phone. I know it's so hard to get them on the phone. Amanda Lamach, and call them up on the phone because ultimately it's always hard to figure these things out. How do you apply to get state stimulus or will be sent to you as in New York? In the case of rent, utilities, food, you got to apply for it. In the case of a check, no, you generally don't have to apply for it. Any other questions about UI, PUA, FPUC? Nothing yet. So, a Pennsylvania extended UI for 13 weeks. Is that true? I don't know. 13 new weeks. Did they just announce it? So I was reporting that Philadelphia was doing a massive unemployment, a massive stimulus package. So can you get more than 39 weeks of PUA? You cannot. PUA expires on December 31st. That's why there's an emergency to get PUA and PEUC extended because they literally expire in just a few days. There's no way to extend it. New Jersey extended 13 weeks. Oh, congratulations. I love when people are asking if someone else is in the room. It's very funny. They're like, "Hey, is John in the room? Is Jared? Is Sarah in the room?" It's very funny. Uh, is my 2009 the same as my 2019 tax return? No, your 2019, your 1099. Yeah, your 1099 is your 2019 tax return. So now let's go to. I don't see. I don't see any questions else about unemployment. How do you get PUA extended? You cannot get PUA extended. PUA expires in December. There is no way to get PUA extended. That's why Congress needs to get this done next week. PUA and PEUC are going to expire, and there's no way around it. Now, in the case of UI, which is PUC, states can do extended benefits. And this is what's a little complicated about this. So let me explain this. So you're either an independent contractor, PUA, or you're a W-2 worker, like a Macy's employer. You're either a Grubhub driver or you're a Macy's employee. Macy's is W-2, is UI, and Grubhub is 1099, a PUA. Well, PUA's weeks are shutting down in just a few days. There's no more PUA in a few weeks. There's nothing a state can do for PUA. Now, UI, a state can do what's called extended weeks. And we just heard a few people saying New Jersey. We already knew about Hawaii. That's where they give you additional weeks. Let me do it this way. Additional weeks of UI from state extended benefits. They can't extend PUA. It's not their instrument. This is a federal instrument, PUA. UI is a state instrument. They can give additional weeks of UI. The problem is that I don't know what states are going to do, and I know they have this. They've discussed this internally because it's a big issue. If they're extending, for example, in Hawaii, if they're extending the UI people, 10 more weeks, what is Hawaii going to do with the PUA people? Are they going to put them onto UI? I mean, that's the only way I could figure out they're going to do this is that if they see Congress not extending PUA, are they going to put the PUA people onto UI and then extend them with the UI people, or do nothing with the PUA? They may not do anything with the PUA. I mean, let me explain something that's very clear. Thank you for the super chat just a second ago. Is that PUA never existed before March? PUA was just created for this pandemic. So if you were an Uber driver in 2019 and laid off, well, that's not a good example. If you're a 2019 driver, let's see, you were a worker who cleaned at a building as a 1099. You were self-employed, but something happened that you no longer have that job. You could not claim unemployment in 2019. You could not. There was no instrument for you. They created this just for the pandemic. So I'm not sure what states are going to do with PUA if Congress doesn't take this up next week. But ultimately, I believe that Congress is going to take this up. Washington State's governor says he's extending PUA 4 weeks if Congress doesn't. So I don't know if they're going to put us on UI, says April. So that's a great comment. So April in the IG room just said that in Washington, their state governor, Washington State's governor says, I will take PUA and extend you 4 weeks. And so she has a great point. I don't know if they're going to put the PUA people on UI or just keep them on PUA. Sometimes these states, here's another point. Sometimes these states pay you, but call it something screwy. And they know it's screwy. They just want to pay you. Let me give you an example. That that might be the example. They may keep you under a PUA classification, but send you a check from their UI funds. They may literally keep your file the way it is, PUA, started in March, still PUA. But when they send you checks, they may send you 4 extra weeks in Washington State from the UI fund. I've detailed that strangeness for months on this channel. Back in April, May, when this channel launched, and I was doing PUA, which PUA went live on April 28th in California and a few other states. Other states didn't have it until May. When I went live, I'm like, okay, your Uber, Lyft, Grubhub, Airbnb, you're all PUA. Well, guess what happened? A few states said, yeah, they're PUA, but we're going to treat them as UI because they're misclassified by their employer. And so suddenly I had all these PUA people saying, why am I UI? I'm like, if your state wants to pay you, just zip it and keep it quiet. Just keep it quiet because, ultimately they are misclassifying you on purpose and calling you UI. But if they're paying you, then just there you go. Are they extending PUA in California? They can't extend PUA. Now, the Washington State example was an example. He's not reading comments. I am reading comments, Tropical. Oh my God. Do you know if UI... It's just... Oh, it's a tough crowd tonight. Do you know if UI is based on earnings when you got paid? UI and PUA starts initially at the base level, and then they raise it based upon the 2019 tax return. So that is what I always talk about on this channel, is you start with a base level benefit, but you need to give them your 2019 tax return to show how you qualify for more. How do you read and talk? It's really hard. Larry just asked me, how do you read and talk? Well, I read your comment. I just said talked. When I'm answering one question, someone else is like, why didn't you answer my question? Well, that's the nature of a live show. How do we fire the Democrats? We don't fire them. We don't employ them. New Jersey has 20 weeks of benefits. If you max out the 40, they tax the 13 weeks. Tried escalate benefits. California got sent in my tax return, said it would take 30 days to adjust. EIDL power. Well, that's good if they're saying how we're going to adjust it. That's wonderful. But I would call them on the phone. I know they're impossible to get on the phone, but I would get them on the phone. PUA is already getting extended in Georgia. Now, Understand they cannot extend PUA. PUA cannot be extended by a state. They may extend your weeks of benefits under UI, but PUA is a federal instrument. It's done in December. There's no way to extend PUA. They may give you additional weeks of benefits and pay you under UI to say, hey, I don't want my PUA app, I don't want my PUA citizens having no benefits on January 1st. Sean H. Jackson, you're not reading mine. I just did. Uh, but ultimately, understand PUA cannot be extended. They can extend you as a benefit recipient and pay you from UI money. PUA is actually coming from the federal government. Now they can pay PUA. They could pay you from state funds and call it PUA, but it's not federal PUA. It's something totally different. How far back do I think they're going to go for the FPUC? Let's ask the room. That's a good one to ask the room. In the room, when Joe comes around and the Democrats and the Republicans in January, how retroactive do you think they're going to propose? I don't mean actually do it. Let's do first propose and then let's do what they're actually going to do. How far back do you think they're going to propose to do FPUC? How far retroactively? What month? Just put the month. How far back do you think they're going to propose to do FPUC retroactive? Which month do you think they're going to do it? September 5th, September 12th, 1 week, October, April, September, October, August, 0, 30 weeks, October, none, September, October, wow, tough crowd, 0, September, 0 in the IG room, August, 0, August, September. So there we go. December. Wow. So there was really just one person who said August, and everyone else is like September, October, and 0 or December. Okay. Next question. When you think they're finished negotiating, fighting over the bill, goes to a vote, what do you think will be what month will it be retroactive to? What month do you think FPUC will finally be retroactive to when they're done? December. 0. uh, uh, 4 weeks. October, January won't be. November, February, January, meaning it won't be retroactive. November. There you go. December, 0, none. Thank you for the super chat. None. Wow. So people really think that they are not going to come up and pay the retroactiveness of FPUC. Really interesting. Linda thinks August, but most people like Gunnar thought 0, and Kara in the IG room says none. Miss Anna says July. Deanne says none. So really quite interesting. Your call is as best as my call. What I do know is that the last negotiations, which was in October, Nancy and Steve, so representing both political parties, were talking September, which was retroactive for 4 weeks at that time. At that time, they were talking retroactive for 4 weeks. So if we're talking about retroactive for January, that means retroactive to like today. Just retroactive for 4 weeks. So really crazy. Ultimately, this is one of those things that I will never ever stop saying, because it eats me up alive, and you'll never hear me stop saying this, is that Nancy Pelosi was offered $400 a week from Steve Mnuchin in July. She turned it down. July to now is 30 weeks, so 30 weeks at $400 a week is $12,000. You would have had $12,000 by now. Mitch offered her in May $300 a week when FPUC was to expire in late July. So you would have had $300 a week for 30 weeks. You had $9,000. So she turned down $9,000 and $12,000 and instead gave you 0. And it really is awful. Yeah, it's $12,000. Jay Pye. Oh, hey Jay. You're from wait, I can't remember what country. I know Jay's international. And then Philippines Adventure is in here as well. Wow. So she turned down $12,000. You would have had $12,000. You would have had $9,000. You would have been getting four. I mean, it's so obvious. $400 a week every week since July, you would not have been homeless. You would not have had financial difficulty. $400 continually coming in every single week since July is just keeping people more financially stable. But turning down $400 a week because of Andrew and Gavin Newsom is just insane. It's $12,000, and even turning down Mitch's $300 a week. So what is she doing now? After she turned down $300 a week, which would have given you $9,000, what is she doing now? She's endorsing $300 a week forward for 3 weeks. 3 weeks forward for $900. So instead of $9,000 and $12,000, she's doing $900. It's horrible. It just April in the room says, makes me mad that it would have helped my family. It makes me insanely angry that this woman turned down these insane sums of money that you would have had, and I know the impact it would have made on viewers. There's also the issues that compound themselves, which is, by August, the problem solvers, the Blue Dogs, the Democrats, the new Democrat coalition were saying, Nancy, do a standalone bill for unemployment. Choose a number, Nancy, 400, 500, just choose a number. She said, no, we're not going to do piecemeal. Well, guess what happens tomorrow? We're doing piecemeal tomorrow. Guess what happened last week? She endorsed piecemeal. She endorsed piecemeal of the Manchin Romney plan, which has only 4 provisions in it. It's piecemeal. Piecemeal. Now she's endorsing piecemeal. Now she's accepting $900 of unemployment FPUC forward, 3 weeks, $900 forward. After turning down $12,000 and $9,000, it's just so hideous. It's really, really horrible. Nancy doesn't care about anyone. She doesn't. She really doesn't. It eats me up alive every time I think about those numbers. SSI and SSDI. So SSI and SSDI, that would be a standalone bill coming in January, $200 a month on top of your existing benefits for Mago V's Jarm in the Instagram room. SSI and SSDI would come as a standalone bill, presumably, if not, it's merged into the massive stimulus package in January. $200 a month, all the way up to December of next year, and then the step up, and then the annual new benchmark. Jim, I heard the bills are so. Actually, I like Jim's comment. So let me read Jim's comment on air. Jim said, "I heard they're splitting the two bills into two different splitting the bill into two bills." Let me recap. Actually, let me have the room answer the question. How many CR bills have been written so far by anyone in the last 2 weeks? CR bills, continuing resolution bills. How many bills? Give me a number. In the Ashley says 0. Tropical says 1. Miss Ashley says 0. How about the IG room? How many CR bills? None. 1. None. 0. 0. 1. 1. 0. 0. The answer is 0. The answer is 0. 4. The answer is 0. 8. No, the answer is actually 0. The moderates never wrote a bill. Mitch never wrote a bill. And so someone just asked, I heard they're splitting the bill into two bills. No, you want me to reenact what they're doing? Here's their memo. They're taking their memo and just splitting the memo into two parts. They're taking their post-it note and tearing it into two parts. That's what they're doing. I don't know how they get press coverage for this junk all the time. They're taking a memo, a shopping list, a grocery list, and they're tearing it in half. Like, I'm tearing it in half. Oh, good. You're tearing your memo in half. Who gets press coverage for tearing a memo in half? It's just a joke. I mean, did they really want to be on TV that badly? I mean, do a YouTube channel, for God's sake. It's just, oh my goodness. So Sirloin says 0. Sirloin is correct. It's 0. So no backdated payments. Well, their UI and PUA, they would do backdated. So your PUA and UI that you're supposed to get this month. If you're losing weeks, if you're losing like next week or the week after, you'll get those back paid as well. Why are you not talking about SSI recipients? Oh, I talk about them. God, I talk about it in almost every single video. I just did a second ago. LA 2020. Well, I think that election already happened, so I don't think I can go back in time. Fix your shirt. I can see your red chest hair. What? I don't have a red chest hair. Oh my God. Oh, you get a memo. She gets a memo. He gets a memo. Everyone gets a memo. It's like a post-it note. Oh, we're gonna tear our post-it note in half. Okay, good, good children. Cassie says, we're splitting the bills in half. And it's just, when I read it, I'm like, you know what? My reaction of it when I heard it was, okay, wait a second. This is anti Nancy Pelosi because she said she doesn't do piecemeal. She doesn't split things in half. And then Mitch actually discussed this last week. He's like, I'm not doing that, junk. What are you talking about? I want chicken McNuggets. So skinny. There you go. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for joining me for being a Mitch tonight. A lot of fun. I'll be going back live at about 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for Purple Power Live. That will have a live recording to answer all your questions about state stimulus, rent stimulus, food stimulus. I have my notes. Whether it's Catholic Charities or Community Action, I have all my notes ready to go. If you got rent, you got food, or you need rent or food, or if you're looking for the state stimulus check, I'll be going live. But before that, tune in for Evening's Check. That'll be a big broadcast. Watch Evening's Check. Meantime, if you did not watch Afternoon's Check, it's in the pinned comment. Watch Afternoon's Check in purple. See you in a little bit with a tape recording of Evening's LA. It's a big one. It's a big show. And the the guy the peanut gallery behind me says goodbye as well. Have a great evening.